The hadith of the Musnad of Imam Ahmad, al-mu'minu ma'lafun wa la khayra fi man la ya'laf wa la yu'laf. A believer is an abode of love. Love pours out from a believer. There is no good in the one who does not love others and nobody loves him. We have forgotten to smile in this day and age. And sometimes we smile at non-Muslims, but Muslims we don't want to smile. Because she's from that group. In the masjid, you saw someone praying salah in a different way, and you gave her a really sly, aggressive type of look and a rigid up, stuck up kind of face. And you walked outside and then, you went to the bank and there was a cashier there. Hi Tracy, how are you? At least this person is believing. In the masjid, you saw someone because he was doing this and he was praying like this. This guy. You just couldn't even say salam to him. Absolutely stuck up face. Being reserved. We become reserved. Because why? He's praying salah in a different way. A'udhu billah, how low can Muslims get? And then the same person walks out of the masjid, across the road, into the post office or the bank, and then is talking about the weather and how's life, and you're alright Tracy, and this and that, and flirting with her. Seriously, it's a problem. Smile at your fellow Muslim brothers and sisters. Right? Don't keep on smiling at each other. I said in a talk once, the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and one brother asked a question in the Q&A, said, can I start smiling at all the sisters now? There are rules and regulations, of course, with adab and with modesty. But with one another, it doesn't matter if someone's not on your own madhab, you can still smile. With warmth. Bring them close. Maybe they might even start following what you want them to follow, but it's true. Look at the way the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did da'wah. It's in the Quran. "Ud'u ila sabila rabbika bil hikmah wal maw'idati al hasana." Preaching in the best of ways. And Allah said in the Quran as well about him, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَنْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. That if you were harsh-hearted, O Messenger of Allah, if you were aggressive, if you were rigid, if you were stuck up, لَنْفَضُّوا, these people would have dispersed. But because you were gentle, you were considerate, even towards your enemies. Look how the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam dealt with his enemies. And one definitely final point. This is, so we need to bring love and ulfa and mahabba and avoid ikhtilaf, avoid friction and disunity and all of those things. And I'll tell you one last thing. I read this in one of the books recently. Some of the scholars are of the opinion, like Imam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he's mentioned this in one of his books, quoting from Imam Abu Abdullah al-Bukhari. Imam al-Bukhari, the one who wrote al-Jami' al-Sahih. It's in his al-Jami' al-Sahih al-Bukhari, and some other scholars as well. It's an amazing point. I read this not just recently, meaning a few years ago, but I was quite intrigued by it. In there's a whole book called Risalat al-Ulfa Bayn al-Muslimin, the book about ulfa, creating love and harmony and peace, based on Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahulah's works. It's a really good book. One of the brothers, I told him to translate it as well. In Manchester, he was at the university, but he did do some translation, and it needs to be checked. But anyway, there's a really important point in there. He said sometimes, these differences that we have, the greatest, I said, ulfa, creating harmony and unity and peace, is the greatest of obligations, right? Yeah. This is more of an obligation than what you think might be the correct way of offering salah. For example, if I think that the correct way of offering salah, the correct sunnah, is to say Ameen loudly, right? Fine, that is, I think it's a correct sunnah. But it's more of an obligation, more greater of an obligation, to bring hearts together. And he said that if sometimes, if you see that you do something which is not, in your opinion, to be the more correct way of doing in sunnah, right? But it brings about harmony, then you should be doing the other. Who said this? Imam Ibn Taymiyyah and Imam Bukhari. And there's a dalil. Dalil was the hadith of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's in the Sahih al-Bukhari. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you know what he said? This is a hadith from Aisha. He said, "Oh Aisha, لولا أن قومك حديث أحد بجاهلية." Had your people not been very close to the days of ignorance, لَنَقَضْتُ الْكَعْبَةِ, I had an intention, I really want to demolish the whole Kaaba. You know, Kaaba was built on several different times, as you know. It underwent refurbishment. So the current positioning of the Kaaba is not in the view of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to be the correct way. Imagine the Messenger of Allah. He's even in charge. He can do anything he wants. He actually wanted 2 doors. And he wanted to enter the Hatim, because in his view that was a correct positioning of the Kaaba. He said, "Oh Aisha, had your people not been very close to Islam, it's just been so few years, and I fear fitna, and I fear people being disunited. If that had not been there, I would have broken the Kaaba, brought it down to earth, demolished it, وَلَأَلْصَقْتُهَا بِالْأَرْضِ لَجَعَلْتُ لَهَا بَابًا يَدْخُلُ النَّاسِ مِنْهُ وَبَابًا يَخْرُجُونَ مِنْهُ." I would have made one door for people to enter and another door for people to exit. Now, Imam al-Bukhari says that he left a thing that he wanted to do for the sake of peace and harmony. And this is why many scholars, they say that, look, if your position is that you should say Ameen loudly, but you go to a mosque where everybody is saying silently, for the peace of harmony, for the case of harmony, say silently. Why make a fuss? But we don't do that. If I am of the position that I think the sunnah is loudly, I'll go to a mosque and I'll be the only one, and I'll make a point. Ameen! Listen to me, this is the correct way. Seriously, and in Pakistan there was a massive debate. There were Ameen loudly people and silent people. There was a big debate. There were 2 mosques, Ameen loud, Ameen silent. They kicked them out, and there were massive issues. If I offer salah in a way that I don't raise my hands, and I personally, this is my practice, I used to do this before I actually read this, and I used to feel guilty, but then when I read this, I felt content. That, for example, the Hanafi position is that when a person offers a salah, the females, of course, they put on the chest, but they place their hands below the navel, right? But if I used to go to a place like some universities where I used to lead prayer, and most of the people behind me are offering the prayer where they put their hands here, or they do raf'ul yadayn. I used to lead the prayer and I used to do raf'ul yadayn. Going into ruku', coming back, I used to do it. Because it's more important to blend in with the people than think and practice on something which you think is superior. This is a qa'idah, inshallah. I'm definitely ending with this. May Allah grant us tawfiq. May Allah give me the ability to practice on all of you. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله.